Finally, we get some respect. We get some respect. It's mere misses. That's right. Wait.
And Allen put to the end zone for the touchdown. Stephon Diggs, and the Bills stay alive.
Hello and welcome to week 10 of the Empire League podcast. I am your commissioner, Andy Cahill. That is your commissioner, Scott Sprague. Scott, say hello.
Don't tell me what to do. I just whipped your ass.
News and notes for this week. League fees. By the time you're watching this, they are past due. You should have heard from me. Get your fucking league fees in. I don't know what else to say. You will have heard from me if you haven't paid already, and I really hope that I don't have to follow up again. Also, the trade deadline in the league is coming up. It is the end of week 11. So if your trades are submitted and agreed to before the end of the Monday night game, they will be processed. After the Monday night game is over, no more trades.
Yeah, just like last year, the timer will go until the final play of the Monday night game. Brian and I last year had a trade that was still being negotiated up until that deadline. And then I think I hit the accept button with 30, while they were doing the knees down in the victory position of the Monday night game. So they're good as long as you get them in before the end of that game.
Yes. All right. Moving into my least favorite part of this week. Scoreboard overview from last week. We start with the man who desperately wants us to put respect on his name, Moto Penikeku, Nolan, going on a career high 2-game winning streak, scoring an almost league average amount of points for the second consecutive week, and defeating Briggsy, putting Briggsy in the basement. Good for Nolan, I guess.
No, average for Nolan. Nolan, this is the expectation, and you hit up the entire group saying, "Put some respect on my name," and you're not gonna get it. You're doing what you don't get adulation for doing your fucking job. You're 3-6, you're on a 2-game win streak. String together a couple more, and maybe we'll have something to talk about. But until then, keep setting your lineup, kid. You're doing fine.
Yes, adequate. Someone who did more than adequately is McBuckets, coming out with the 156 best score of the weekend. Great job by McBuckets. We love to see it. Powered in large part by the Cleveland Browns. Go Browns, right?
Yeah, here we go, Brownies, here we go. That's they won't be playing the Arizona Cardinals every week, so I don't know if you can expect all of the numbers you got to keep coming, but there's nothing wrong with having the most points in the league. 156 is a big boy number, and you do get a little bit of respect. Nice job.
Yeah, and I think it is worth saying, Rachaad White scores a couple times, get almost 30 points from him. Taysom Hill just keeps scoring touchdowns for New Orleans. And then, as we kind of mentioned last week, Tank Dell, one of the young guys, comes through, on that potentially, explosive Houston offense week to week. It can be pretty explosive, and Dell definitely is a guy that's getting the ball a lot. So it wasn't all the Brownies, but certainly Cooper, Njoku, and Ford is like a nice core that, when they're playing a really bad team like Arizona, will power that team to some decent points. So, we've been talking about McBuckets being a team that we thought had this in him. So it was nice to see it all come together this week.
Yeah, and even a couple of those guys you mentioned were people that he picked up in the last week or two, Rashad White and Taysom Hill. I'm still as scared as can be with Taysom Hill. I think I've seen this trap laid out a million times.
Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
Man, it's me under there again. I'm going to be really pissed off.
And I'm even falling for it. I'm playing him in my family league. So I'm riding with you, buddy. But you had a slow start to the season, mostly powered, by the injuries and the Nick Chubb situation. But you got your rebrand in, and now you're starting to look like a respectable team. So keep it up.
Yeah. Totally agree. Moving on, we had Sprague's Dogs, who just absolutely killed B Guider. That was a matchup of teams that had the same record, and Sprague's Dogs announced himself as being the contender that we thought he was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, we've said it before, when the Cowboys have good weeks, and especially when the CD Dak stack have good weeks. Yeah. Sprague's Dogs is also going to have good weeks, and I think even good enough to sort of cover up the smell of Tony Pollard, who's not been super impressive really all season.
Yeah, no, Pollard has been easily the biggest disappointment, I think, in the running back position. That was a guy that I obviously had at the beginning of the year. I was anticipating him being an RB1, probably a top 5 running back, and he has just not been that. And it definitely seems like Dallas has figured out that their best offense is giving the ball to CeeDee Lamb. And he's put up like almost 400 yards in 2 weeks. So, he's doing a lot, and you like to see that. Definitely. We'll see. Like Ramondre Stevenson had a big game. Like, it's nice to see the Patriots kind of getting back to the running game. But I think overall, like, this is kind of what I would expect a Sprague's Dogs week to look like. Although you obviously cannot expect 190 plus yards from your wide receiver one every week. But I think there's enough talent there to like spread it out.
Well, if you had better wide receivers, you could count on that, Andy. But you'll get there one day.
Yeah, well,
another news, Benny Denny almost doubles up Griffin. Damn close. We had a couple of teams not put up very good numbers this week, and Griffin was definitely one of them, putting up 69 points.
Nice
against Benny Denny, who had 130, and this is a pretty standard match for Benny Denny. 130 seems like his mark that he's hitting every week.
That leads us to the final matchup of the week, where Killing Unicorns was able to win, scoring only 87 points.
Scoring enough.
Yeah,
I didn't need to score anymore. I could have scored 51 and I would have been just fine.
Yes, because my team had probably, if not definitely, the worst performance in league history, scoring 0 touchdowns, suffering no injuries, having everyone play a full game, and putting up a whopping 50.78 points.
Yeah, and there's no probably about it, just so we're perfectly clear. There is nobody who scored fewer points than you did this week. If there was, I would have it noted here, but you are the worst. You should feel like the worst, and this under half of your original projected points. The entire weekend, I just saw your point total and my point total get closer and closer and closer until you started slipping behind. And I had a very mediocre week myself, by my standards, coming in with 87.87. But didn't need to do any better. This is one that you could have won, you could have taken from me, and I left the door wide open for you to do it, and you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a contrition video to make. This is not my contrition video. You're gonna get a separate video from me. If honestly, it should be posted before the pod, so you probably already got it. But I'm ashamed. My team was terrible.
Yes.
I take full ownership of that as the manager of that team. I did not foresee Josh Dobbs not only getting in the game, but scoring a touchdown and scoring 24 points. I did not foresee Jalen Warren scoring 14 points on my bench. I did not foresee Kyle Phillips being an actual NFL player this week.
I don't know if even with all of those,
Even if all of those guys had played, I still probably would have lost because Jamar Chase didn't show up. Ken Walker didn't show up. Saquon got 14 points and is,
we had 10.
Yeah,
it was your whole team. You can list your entire roster.
it was the whole team. Like, I think even if I had played, when I looked at it on the weekly report, my max was like just over 100. So if I had an absolutely perfect lineup, I could have beaten Scott. But it shouldn't take a perfect lineup to beat 87 points. 87 points should lose every single time. And it didn't, because my team was dog shit and I am awful. So as you all saw, I rechanged the name. We're going back to the Saquon branding. Saquon branding did us well for the first 7 weeks. And
but you changed it a couple times throughout the season.
We did, because Saquon was hurt, and then we welcomed him back.
Yeah. So every time he sneezes, every time he blows his nose, every time he wipes his butt, we have a new update of, I hope you had double ply, Saquon. I hope it's a nice crisp fall day for you, Saquon. I hope.
Listen, we're wishing him good luck because we know as an organization that he's about to be going up against 10-man boxes. And he is not going to be able to do anything once again, just like when the Giants played Mike Glennon at quarterback last year. So, I'd
rather have Mike Glennon.
Or 2 years ago, I should say. So, it's going to be rough going, and we're wishing him good luck because he is the captain of this team, and changing the name and using the Emperor branding just wasn't the right move. And I think the players showed that was not acceptable with their
so
performance.
They don't accept you as the Emperor.
They don't want me to win. They want me to hide my current status as defending champion and emperor of the Empire League. And
you hit it pretty fucking well. That was a great Halloween costume this weekend of disguising yourself as a non-competitor.
Yep. I was a week late, but I did nail my costume.
It was you dressed up as Nolan for Halloween this year.
Honestly, I wish I had scored as many points as Nolan. And that's where I'm at as a manager. So like, that's not great, not a great feeling. So yeah, 100%. And you're also going to get a contrition video in which, I don't know, maybe I'm going to I don't even know what I'm going to do. I owe you more than just a drink and some predictions because of how bad it is.
Yeah, no, this was as embarrassing as it gets. And I just had the privilege of meeting your fiance a second ago, which was a lovely experience. Yeah. I'm shocked. She must not know.
She does know. Does
she know how bad it was, though? Because it wasn't just that you lost or that you lost to me.
She knows that I scored 50 points. And
contextually, she knows.
There were conversations about whether or not the wedding should move forward. She has decided that we should move forward. And I just think the big guy upstairs, that's gonna continue to progress. Because it was hit or miss for a second there when she saw the score.
Well, when she sees your projections for the rest of the season, especially with regard to Saquon. And now the Giants have even fewer weapons with Daniel Jones going on IR for like the 5th time this season.
Yeah. You know what? Good luck, Saquon, and good luck.
He needs
Good luck,
more than
Saquon.
luck.
But yeah, I am ashamed and I feel bad and my team is terrible and I deserve all of the comments for probably honestly, even if I win again, I deserve to be told how terrible I am because that's how bad.
Until somebody else takes this mantle from you of 50 points and they score under 50 points.
Yeah.
Without injuries.
Yeah.
If someone loses every player on their team to injury in 1 week, that would be really unfortunate, but does happen, to me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at that point though, like what I expect to happen is that someone will have multiple injuries on their team and they'll still manage to score more than 50 points. Which
I
is
did it.
yeah, I mean that's your team, that doesn't count. Your team's stacked. Like that's an all-star team. Like I'm talking about
a team with regular human beings just like you and me.
No, it's not. Moving on to the Week 10 power rankings. We'll start with the implications of my loss. From just a record standpoint, I did fall from 2nd to 4th, which is significant, obviously. Or I guess I was 3rd. Sorry, Benny Denny, you were above me. I was 3rd, so I fall to 4th. But I believe that the biggest thing with me scoring 50 points is that while I was kind of contending with the Benny Denny's and the Sprague's dogs on points, I just fell pretty far behind. Benny Denny is now well over 100 points ahead of me. Sprague's dogs is only 15 points ahead, so I can definitely catch him. But I have certainly fallen back into the pack of B Guider, Sprague's dogs, and Olave Lamp in terms of points. And so my standing, as competing for that 2nd spot has kind of changed to like I'm 1 loss away from being very firmly on the bubble of a playoff spot. So,
that is so great for all of us. Just I will continue driving this nail into your guys' heads for the rest of the season. But if he wins, it's over. So if he doesn't even make the playoffs, then we're all safe.
Well, it's not over, it just resets. But yes, if I win, it resets. So a lot of potential playoff implications from my loss.
Now, you've said that word implication a couple of times. What implication?
Both my record suffering, obviously 2 losses in a row, not great. And then the points being, I think, the even bigger thing, because if it comes down to Benny Denny or Sprague's dogs and I being tied for that number 2 seed, if I'm able to bounce back, which I do kind of anticipate that I'll be able to bounce back from 50 to competitive at some point this week. The points I think will be the difference there. So, I look at the standings and I say to myself, like, I'm not really 1 game behind Sprague's dogs and Benny Denny. I'm essentially 2 games behind them. So I have to outplay them the rest of the year by a pretty significant margin to jump over either of them because of the points. So yeah, definitely pretty much worst case scenario for how my week could have gone, if that wasn't clear enough from the point total I put up.
Looking elsewhere in the standings, we have McBuckets climbing out of last place. Well deserved for the performance you put on. And with that, also Moto Panakeko jumps up a spot with his win, also bringing Briggsy down 2 spots into last place, which is fair given the week he put on versus the other 2 both got their wins. Now we're in a position where Moto Panakeko is playing against Griffin this week, And if he wins, then he will, depending on their points, could even jump Griffin in the standings and be a little playoff bubble team.
He could definitely be a bubble team. And, if we, I don't want to get too far ahead because we'll obviously talk about the matchups. But I do think it is worth noting that, Sprague's Dogs is playing Olave Lamp. Sprague's Dogs is on a winning streak. That team is really coming together, and Sprague's and Olave Lamp is kind of on the downslope right now. So if Mono Panakeku wins, and all of a sudden he's leaping over Griffin on points, and then he's tied on record with Olave Lamp, very much in playoff contention. So kind of like we talked about last week with Briggsy, where it's like this is like for Briggsy it was a must win just to like stay in the conversation. Like this is a huge game for Moto Panakeku.
Yeah, which brings us to the transactions because he made a couple of trades here.
He has been active.
Yes, and I don't really. I guess I'll let you break down yours that you did with him, and then I'll give my take on that, and then the next one that he did.
Yeah, so I'll talk on this one. So I'll just start by saying like I never anticipated him just accepting this offer. That's bad trade etiquette from me. I've just been a bad owner for 2 weeks now, and I gotta own it. Didn't expect this to be an instant accept the way that it was. I thought it was a opening conversation kind of trade. But he did just accept it. My mindset being essentially that Pittman is an upgrade over Godwin, and Madison and Walker the rest of the year are hopefully a wash. Plus, I add a third round pick, which is just like a nice thing to have. I think that from Nolan's side, since I didn't have an extended conversation with him, so I don't know, I would love to get his more detailed thoughts on it. I think he looks at Ken Walker and he sees like what Ken Walker has been. He sees the RB9 on the season, which in total points this year, Ken Walker is the RB9. So he looks at that and he says, I'm getting a top 10 running back for Madison, who is very much not a top 10 running back, and Pittman, who is, a solid wide receiver too, but nothing else. So he looks at that as an upgrade. I look at Walker and I see someone who has consistently lost work to Charbonnet all year, and someone who is extremely touchdown dependent these days because he does not catch the football. So while yes, he is the RB9 on the season, I think by the end of the year he will be firmly an RB2. And as I said, like my anticipation is that Madison will have more opportunities, and just based on volume, will be able to kind of match the production that Walker provides the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've said this before. I just don't really understand the trade. I mean, I understand the things that you just said, but I don't personally get the pros and cons of either side of this. Usually, if I'm trading, I want a clear upgrade in one thing, even if I'm sacrificing the other. And to me, this just feels like you're trading an iced coffee for some coffee with ice in it. And it just feels like the same on both sides.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. Michael Pittman, I think, is better this year than he will be in the future because, when Richardson was his quarterback, he didn't really see much volume. Now he's got a bit more of a gunslinger in Gardner Minshew, but still not a very good quarterback. Whereas Godwin has a better quarterback, but is the 1B option behind Mike Evans. But if Evans goes down, which he has in the past, Godwin all of a sudden becomes very interesting. And then Ken Walker, you're right, he has been losing work to Charbonnet, but still the more talented running back between him and Madison. And Madison has a storied history of fumbling. The man is allergic to holding onto the ball. They have to duct tape it to his hands. And you just wonder how much rope he gets with their coach And it's been a couple weeks since he's had that issue, but it's something that he's dealt with year after year. So if he starts fumbling again and gets a case of the dropsies,
Yep.
that could be problematic. But
Yeah.
we'll find out as the season
There's-
goes on, I suppose.
There's two other factors that I just want to bring up really quick about this that for me, because I agree with the Madison fumbling and like he could definitely get benched, but Cam Akers got hurt, so the best competitor for him is no longer there. That's number one. And then Ken Walker has one of the toughest schedules the rest of the way. I was just looking at it. Let me just pull it up really quick here. So he's got Washington and the Rams, which not that bad. San Francisco, that from week 12 on, it's San Francisco, Dallas, San Francisco, Philly, and then Tennessee, which isn't terrible, Pittsburgh, and Arizona week 18, where we don't have playoff games. So it's like, it's a pretty brutal schedule for him. And as a non-pass catcher, I really just don't see his production. Like, I think next year, Ken Walker could be really good again. Like, they will probably have a much softer schedule and it will be a little easier. But that was just like, and then the only other thing I wanted to mention, and I said this to you before we started recording, is like I felt like I was a little bit too dependent on my running backs to like be dominant. And so like when one of them wasn't dominant, I didn't have enough wide receiver depth with DJ Moore not being what he is when Fields is playing, to like consistently pick up the slack. And I'm hoping that Pittman can kind of like even out the scoring between my running backs and wide receivers. As you said, it is pretty much like exchanging an iced coffee for a coffee with ice. But I guess what I would say to that analogy is that a true iced coffee was brewed cold and then had ice put in it. And a coffee with ice is like a hot coffee that had ice in it and it's all watered down. And there is a slight difference between those two things. And I prefer the first one. So that's pretty much how I'm looking at this.
Fair enough. Yeah, and then also we didn't even mention, but you also are going to get Corey's third round pick this year, which at the moment at least is playing like a late second round pick.
Yeah, I probably should have asked for a second round pick after seeing the trade that he did with Corey.
Yeah. Speaking of picks, we have Nolan bring in Jameson Williams, who I am pretty sure he had last year. And then I don't remember how he made his way over to Corey's team and is now on his way back. But here he is back again. And along with that, we have 2 second round picks this year and a 2026 first round pick from Corey for Javonte Williams, completing the backfield of Denver for Corey.
Yes. I feel like you and I are in agreement that for a number of reasons, we do not understand this trade. Now I will say that the last time one of us had a question about a trade that Corey made, it ended up working out for him. But yeah, I guess for me, I'm just like, Jameson, like if I'm Nolan, right? I have Javonte Williams. I know that Corey wants to complete this backfield. Is Jameson Williams a guy who's going to be a valuable piece at any point this season? And if you're making the move for next season, then I don't understand why you would trade for Ken Walker and Chris Godwin, who are very much for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say that I don't understand. I know exactly what Corey was trying to do, and I'm
talking about from Nolan.
I like that Corey did that because having one backfield tied up can be very helpful, especially if one goes down, then the other one just turns into a superstar. Yeah. But that's a lot of picks to give up, and I wonder if you couldn't get that deal done with even Jameson Williams in the 2026 first. I would think would be enough
Yeah, I mean,
if I had Javonte, I would have traded him for that. But
that is one of those things where I wish we had Corey on the pod with us to like kind of talk to him about like what the negotiations were like, because this just feels like a massive overpay for a guy coming off an ACL who, yes, is getting the ball more, but has really only had 2 games this year that are good. So like I, he's only scored double digits twice, and it's the last 2 weeks. So, like you said, like I understand you want to get that backfield. I understand that Williams could be kind of in line for even more work and could kind of do what a lot of guys who come back from the ACL injury do, which is like they kind of ease back into their workload and then they take it over and they're back to their full selves. And like next year he would be 2 years removed, and that's usually the year that a guy is back to full strength. We know Javonte Williams,
unless you're J.K. Dobbins,
and well, yeah,
sorry,
but like we know that
rest in peace.
Javonte was looking like a potential stud running back before the injury. So, I guess like the only argument that I could see being made here is I'm going to get a look at him the back half of this year. If he's good, he'll have trade value, or I'll be able to keep him and have a potential top 10 running back next year. And like, I do think that if Javonte Williams turns into a top 10 running back, we're going to look back at this and say that's fair value for a top 10 running back. But like,
Yeah, just for added context, Nolan did originally draft Jameson Williams and then traded him to Corey in October, like almost less than a month ago. It was a month and 4 days ago. It was Jerome Ford, Javonte Williams, Tank Dell, and 2 second-round picks, one of them being Tequila Bob's second-round pick that's now going back to Jameson or back to Nolan, for Michael Pittman, a third this year and a first next year. So a lot of these assets have just been jumping back and forth, and that gives me. And that just makes it even more confusing for me of what were you trading for the first time if now you're trading something away to get those assets back that you didn't want, and on the same day you're trading what you traded those for, and Michael Pittman, you trade him now to Andy. What the fuck are you thinking?
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Like, what is the plan?
I'm very interested
that you have a plan.
I'm very interested to see what like the trade tree looks like for that, because it's like he made the trade.
I just read it in a very clear and concise way.
I know. I'm trying to visualize it. He makes the trade for Pittman, that gets him Ken Walker and gets him Godwin, but then he has to take back these up. Yeah, I think the big question here is like, first of all, is Javonte worth this? I don't think so. Second thing is, what the fuck is Nolan going to do with all these picks? Like, he has so many picks that he's putting himself in a position where there's no way for him to keep all of these guys. So like, he literally is going to have to trade them.
Yes,
or he's going to just draft guys and drop them.
He has 8. That does sound like something he would do, or draft him, trade him to somebody, and then a month later tilt and then trade back, trade for that player back. He has 8 picks in this coming draft, and that's too many. You can do that, but you're not going to be able to keep half of them. And then, if you try to trade them away, people are going to know that you're in a pinch, and, the value of them go down because you have to move them away, or you're just, I'll sit back and wait and pick up whoever you drop on the waiver wire.
Yeah. So just so that we're clear, before the trade goes through, because the trade has not gone through yet, he currently has my first round pick. He's got your first round pick, Scott.
Yes.
He's got his own first round pick. He's got Briggsy's second. He's got his own second. He's got Corey's third. He's got his own third. And now for next year, he is adding Corey's second, and Tequila Bob's second.
Those
So,
are for this year.
yeah,
That's
for
for this
2024.
upcoming draft. Yeah.
Yeah, those are just all the picks I just read are only for the 2024 draft. That's actually I counted 9, but I could be wrong. But like,
Well, he's trading his third round pick to
oh,
you.
right, to me.
And
So he
then
would
like
have
a
8.
pending deal.
So yeah, so I now have Corey's third.
And
But
I can hear him chirping into the comments right now in all caps, demanding respect, and saying, I have this. The market's going to be open. You come see me come draft time, and I'll sling a deal. But
yeah, I mean,
you're gonna need to sling some deal to get your value out of these picks because right now, like you have the picks, but the value of them is really low because you have too many to use. So we're gonna have to. I at least will not be buying them on a premium dollar because I know you can't use them, and I'll just wait until you use the draft picks, and then you're gonna have to drop,
someone.
7 someone's, and
Yeah.
then assuming you keep your first overall pick, you're gonna have to drop quite a few people, and I'll be happy to wait for that and let you stew in your pile of picks.
Yeah, it's a lot of picks, and I don't understand. Like I said to you, and we mentioned, I mentioned this when he was on the pod a few weeks back. Like, I know that Nolan is an OKC Thunder fan, and that Sam Presti has just been accumulating picks for like 3 years, but like, this ain't the NBA, and you aren't Sam Presti. Like, you gotta make.
We don't have a minor league that you can send these people to.
Yeah, there's no G League. There's no, but it's also just like, I don't know. I'm very interested. I want to give him. I don't think he has earned the benefit of the doubt, so I can't give it to him. But I want to see what he does. There's another week left. I do think it'll be very interesting if Nolan wins. He is in position to make a massive trade. So like, if you are, and I don't want to give our opponents ideas, but if you're Briggsy, you've got some good players, you're in the basement, you can make a trade with Nolan if he wins this week to get a bunch of his picks and like start the rebuild.
Yeah, but even still, I wouldn't. In principle, yes, I see what you're saying. But if I was Briggsy, I wouldn't want 4 picks from Nolan for the exact same reason. I'd want his best pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that in that conversation, like, you're gonna have, like, if you're gonna trade like a Mahomes, right? Which Mahomes, last time I checked, is still on the trade block. Like, if you were gonna trade Mahomes or Cooper Kupp or Joe Mixon to Nolan for picks next week, like, you would need to get like his first round pick back, or a future first, or multiple picks. Like, but I'm just saying, like, if you are a team that finds yourself in a situation where you don't think that a title is in the future, making a big move, like, no one's going to have the assets to make the big trade. Now, what I know about Nolan, or what I've seen from Nolan, is that he hasn't always made great trade offers.
Agreed.
So like, sometimes I feel very strongly, and I more or less said this to him when he was on, that and when we talked about this sort of, when we talked about trade etiquette, a couple weeks ago, like, you got to know the value of your own players. I often feel that Nolan way overvalues his players, but he has the assets to make a move. So we'll see what he does. I'm very, very curious, but we just got to wait and see at this point. So do you have anything else that you want to add on this, or should we move on to the waiver wire?
No, I feel like we've beat that dead horse about as much as you can beat it.
Okay. So moving on to the waiver wire, I massively overpaid for Keaton Mitchell, and I immediately regretted it. Paid $15 for a guy that I could have gotten for $3. Once again, have been a bad fantasy owner for 3 consecutive weeks. I don't know what to say. B Guider tried to get him for 2, Killing Unicorns for 1. My thought process was clouded, so I'm not even gonna really get into it. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to get him for $1. It was just a ad just in case.
All right, so then Cade Otton goes to B Guider as his Dallas Goedert replacement for $8. I tried to get him for 2. I think Cade Otton is very much a replacement level tight end.
Yeah, it's a gross tight end to pick up and depend on with Goddard out, but also all tight ends are gross. So it makes perfect sense. I think this is B Guider was in a position where he needed a tight end, and that's the one that was out there. So I don't hate it at all. Other than I would hate to be in it.
Yeah, I totally hear that. Heineke goes to Benny Denny for $2. This really feels like, in case he doesn't want to play Will Levis, he has another option.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be seeing Taylor Heineke this week. He's got a good matchup. It's not exciting, but Benny Denny has Jalen Hurts on bye, so I think that's exactly what that was.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I would stick with Levis. The guy likes to push the ball down the field, and with Hopkins down there, you just never know. He could luck himself into 2 touchdowns, like 2 long touchdowns. Even if he is like 5 for 20, like he could have 2 60-yard bombs. Like it is what it is. But
yeah, the offense is capped by Treylon Burks being out, and he's very, very concussed. If you guys saw the night, I think last Thursday night game, not that he was the superstar offensive weapon in Tennessee, because there isn't one. But it was just one other defender that didn't have to guard Hopkins, and now there's nobody that it's the whole line can focus on Henry, and the whole secondary can focus on Hopkins.
Hey, just means Kyle Phillips is going to get to eat underneath. Darius Slayton goes to Briggsy for $0. Briggsy, I understand, like, you got to make a move.
That wasn't it.
Anybody? Darius Slayton will be back on the waiver wire in 2 weeks. Antonio Gibson goes to Killing Unicorns for $0. I mean, Antonio Gibson is basically a locked in 8 points. So
yeah, and that's what I need. I'm still working some people back from injury. But until I know for a fact that some of those guys are back, I need somebody that's name isn't Pierre Strong to put into my lineup. God, I read that so right too. I said this was the Browns game last week was going to be an absolute blowout. And so they're going to need to put, at halftime, they can switch and put Pierre Strong in, because Jerome Ford, aka Gerald Ford, is, coming off an injury, and they want to like nurse him back. And they got the garbage time. That wasn't the problem, but they just kept running Gerald Ford out there. The Secret Service couldn't stop him. And the process was correct. The result was not what I wanted. But so Strong, I love you. But you're done with my organization as of now.
And Gibson is, he's points, so you take it.
He's points. It's a very unsexy floor of like 5 points a week, and a very not exciting ceiling of like 10 points a week. And I'll live right in that.
Exactly. So then finally we had Martavis Bryant going to make buckets. I mean, again, this is like,
here's a flyer.
It's a flyer. Jaron Hall wasn't doing anything, so you get a guy who maybe in a year is catching touchdowns from, I don't know, Tommy DeVito. Like, who the fuck knows? But
did you say Tommy DeVito?
Yeah.
So looking at the week 10 matchup, I'm just gonna take over here because you'll be hearing Andy's takes during his contrition video, which we're all excited to see. First up, we got me versus Benny Denny. He's got some big bye weeks to deal with. He's got Jalen Hurts on bye and Travis Kelce, which is lovely for me. I still got some people coming back from injury. I think Khalil Herbert is playing tomorrow. And if that's the case, I think I'm going to play him tomorrow. But we'll see. And then David Montgomery should be back. So we're trending in the right direction, but not quite healthy yet. So this might be the last chance you guys get to take a stab at me until playoff time. Then we got B Guider, suspected domestic terrorist versus Good Luck Saquon, or whatever Andy decides to change his name to this weekend. I'm hoping B Guider takes a dub here. This would be a big one for the whole league again. They're tied in the standings. Hit him while he's down. We got to take advantage of this while he's on the rope. So we'll see if B Guider can suicide bomb his way to glory there. Moto Panikeko, if you want respect, earn the respect. So get a win here against Griffin, jump them in the standings, show that you're a real team. Don't fuck this opportunity up because you probably won't get another chance for it. I'm not bold enough to project him winning, but I will say if he doesn't win, I will put something that's not respect on his head in the pod next week. Olave Lamp versus Sprague's Dogs. Sprague's Dogs, he's got a high flying team right now, and looking at the projections, the rosters aren't set yet. He's looking like he's going to lose, but I think once rosters are finalized, I'm not nervous about it, and I think Sprague's Dogs takes the win here. And then McBuckets, he's on a heater. He's playing the worst team in the league in Briggsy. Get it done, man. Ride the momentum and see if you can put together a little win streak for yourself.
Yeah. You guys will see my my picks in the contrition video, as Scott said. I will leave it at that. I have to go and figure out how I can beg for forgiveness for my horrible display this week. But Scott, you did a great job with your picks, and you did a great job in defeating me this week, and you did a great job on the pod. So well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, the listener / watcher, for watching and making it this far into the pod, and we will see you next week.
Zuma, Zuma, Zuma.